Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Talking Talent. I'm your host, Tommy T. By my side, as usual, is Double K, and behind the scenes is Smokey Z. Tonight, we're going to be reviewing CPW's Love Hurts from this past Saturday, coming from the King William Volunteer Fire Department in Aylett, Virginia. This show was a much better show than we've seen in the past. They put a lot of time, a lot of effort into that show. It had a good card. It had good talent. I was really impressed with their ability to pull this together, and just the way they presented it was all around better. Even the production side of it was better than what we had seen before.
Oh, no question. I think, as we go through the show tonight, there were a lot of new faces. There was a lot more energy throughout the crowd.
Absolutely.
In our episode we just released from On Location that night, I referenced for that show, the entire right side of the building never sat down.
Yeah, I mean, they were on their feet the entire time, from the time the bell rang to start the first match until they were leaving. They never sat down.
No, I mean, to use the word electric, it was electric. We talk about scaling things for here and there to different venues compared to other shows we've been to. I think that's how we could describe this one.
Yeah, it was definitely a well put together show. The folks over at CPW did a really good job with the card and just the way they presented the entire program. So we're going to go ahead and get right into our first match of the night, which was originally scheduled to be the Geordie Bulldogs versus Lavishing Leo Kirby and Ray Vex. Now, the Geordie Bulldogs are it's two brothers, I believe, Mark and Sean Denny, that form that team. And then, of course, Ray Vex and Leo Kirby being individual characters as well. Now, something happened between the return of the commissioner for CPW, Phil Stamper, who basically stepped in and said that he wasn't going to allow the Geordie Bulldogs to compete. And then there was some sort of altercation that occurred in the ring between Leo Kirby, Chris Sharp, and the referee, which is Chris Sharp.
Which is Chris Sharp, right.
And whatever transpired there turned into someone coming out from the back to partner with Chris Sharp and ultimately resulted in a tag team match between Ray Vex, Lavishing Leo Kirby, the referee, Chris Sharp, and Kid USA.
Which one? The original one.
The original Kid USA. How's your fiance doing with understanding that whole thing?
All right, so this happened Saturday night. Sunday, we were still having the conversation of trying to piece it all together. We had Leo in there, we had Kid USA in there, and then somewhere in this conversation, she says to me, "I don't know. I just think there may be more than just those two."
You may be fighting that battle for a long time.
I think they write books with less conspiracy theories than what she's coming up with.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
That's probably very true. But overall, it was nice to see Chris Sharp in action. Granted, he did it in a referee's uniform.
Absolutely.
Many people might know that he's also been a trainer for a wrestling school. Mm-hmm. Some of the CPW folks have trained under him in his wrestling school. And one of the things that was just really cool there was seeing Kid USA back in the ring. The whole Kid USA and Lavishing Leo Kirby in the same ring was also nice to see, given what we had seen the month prior. Mm-hmm. And this was a great match to start the evening with. The interactions between the Geordie Bulldogs and the fans, as well as the performers at the start of the show, just kind of gripped people's attention right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, they did a great job of that night building this matchup.
Sure.
Everything that had taken place was not centered around what actually ended up taking place while we were there.
No. Everything we had seen prior to the actual night was the Geordie Bulldogs, their return to CPW. And ultimately, that's not what we got. We are going to see them at their next show on March 23rd. Mm-hmm. But We did get to see, again, Kid USA lavishing Leo Kirby, who never disappoints, mind you. I've never seen a bad match out of lavishing Leo Kirby.
No.
So, again, another great performance from him. Ray Vex is still learning his craft, still up and coming, but still a good performance out of him.
Sure.
I would like to see a little bit more development to the character and where he's trying to go with it. I'm not sure that there's clarity on that at the moment.
Right.
But I think there's promise there because he's talented. I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, he moves well in the ring. He pulls his moves off well. He sets them up well. But I'm 100% with you in what are you?
Yeah.
We've talked about this in shows past. Are you a heel? Are you a face? Are you that gray area guy? Sort of like a Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Who knows? We don't know what he is.
Yeah, and I'm just looking for clarity on that, really.
Yeah.
I don't think he's bad at it. It's just more identification of what the character is.
Right.
So, that was a great way to start the match. Chris Sharp and Kid USA, I believe, walked away with the win at the end of that match.
They did.
So, again, nice to see the night start off that way. And that's really all I have to say about that particular match. I'm going to go ahead and give it my rating for the evening, and I'm going to say that was a great 3.5-star match to start the evening.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I had it.
Okay.
That's where I was thinking the entire time, 3.5. Great way to start the night, and I think the energy that it created lasted throughout the rest of these matches. But let's not forget to mention one thing about Chris Sharp in this match. This was his birthday.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely correct.
This was his birthday match, so instead of theme music after this victory, he was serenaded to happy birthday by the entire CPW crowd.
Absolutely, and I don't know that there's a better way to end the match. I think I'd rather hear that than have to listen to my theme music, to leave the building, because you hear that all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So 3.5 stars from both of us on the first match. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about the second match.
All right, so in our second match of the night was a big one. It was a big one. We had our first that we've experienced CPW Battle Royal.
Yes.
We had 11 CPW performers in the ring. I'm just going to go ahead and list them off.
Okay.
One by one, we had AK God of War. We had the Hillbilly Kid. We had El Burrito. Jeffrey Gordon was in the ring. John Washington had to have an extra ladder to get in the ring, but he was in there. We had Salvation in there. Lil Lovin'. It was a smaller carbon copy of RC Lovin'.
Yes. Yes.
Drago number 3. I'm going to come back to this next guy in a second.
Okay.
Huggy Bear was in there. And Mikey Banker. And the one I want to come back to is David Dodson. David Dodson, folks, if you were not at the show, was a super fan.
Yeah.
Who was allowed to participate in the Battle Royal under the stipulation that as long as he lasted 5 minutes in this Battle Royal with the other CPW stars who do this for a living. This is their career. This man is a fan. Just like we were sitting in the crowd, he was sitting in the
absolutely.
crowd. If he lasted 5 minutes, the next show on March 23rd is free for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on the house.
Yeah, and we even got tied into that a little bit when we were, we taped that on location episode. Mm-hmm. And the folks from CPW, Brent Flainer, brought over the document that they had him sign, the physical waiver that was going to allow him to get in the ring and perform. He dropped that off and said, hey, guys, just take a look at this. Validate for us that it is signed, it is dated. It was. So he was legitimate. He was a legal participant in that event. And lo and behold, what did he do? He lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how far past 5.
It doesn't matter?
No.
Right.
Five.
That's all you needed.
But to note, not only did he last 5+ minutes in this match, he actually, as a super fan, eliminated a wrestler from this show.
Yes, he did.
From this match. So it was a solid performance.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a great performance overall. And there's a lot to be said for having that many guys in the ring at one time, and then bringing a fan in who doesn't have any training, who doesn't have any expertise, doesn't have the ability to really do what the other guys do, and he still lasted 5 minutes. And got every CPW fan into the March 23rd show for free.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, huge applause for this guy.
Absolutely.
David Dodson, hats off to you. That was an amazing performance that night.
Absolutely. So, if we think about the other folks that were involved in this match, AK God of War, Hillbilly Kid, which this was the first time we had seen him as well.
Yeah, yeah.
El Burrito, we've seen him before. Jeffrey Gordon, folks, not to be confused with the retired NASCAR driver. Just want to clarify that. John Washington, one half of the Munchkin Guild. Salvation, Little Lovin', Drago number 3, Huggy Bear, and Mikey Banker. This was a segment, and Battle Royals are always good because it allows for the promotion to get several performers in the ring, give the audience a chance to see them, and I mean it makes people happy. Right. You get to see different people, you get to see different acts, you get to see a lot of people in the ring at the same time. Salvation winning this for me was outstanding. Again, great job to CPW for that. It was really good to see someone of his caliber to get that W. You know, we've talked about him before, and I think that the future looks brighter and brighter for him.
No doubt.
With every match he has. I don't question without any thought in my mind that Salvation is a future heavyweight champion. Salvation is a future main eventer. Salvation is a guy that's going to go on to do great things as long as his passion stays in the business and confident in what he's able to do.
Well, I mean, it's like you've said before, and we've talked about off camera, and we talked about that night. This guy has a huge physique. He stands out in a crowd, like especially in a crowd like a Battle Royal.
Yeah. He looks like he eats hillbilly kids.
Yeah, he was easy to spot throughout this entire match.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a noticeable size difference when he steps in the ring.
Absolutely.
But you know, we talk a lot about character. You know, what the character is walking through the ring. Heel, face, gray area. He's definitely a gray area guy. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
He's definitely a gray area guy. And he plays that part extremely well. He pulls that off extremely well. But when it's time, we've seen him actually wrestle 2 or 3 times now. Maybe 4. But every time he wrestles, he just dominates, as you know, someone with his physique should.
Yeah.
That's the way that character should go. So I'm 100% on board with you when I think he's a future main eventer. He's a future title holder, whether it be Mid-Atlantic Championship, whether it be CPW heavyweight champion. I definitely see some gold either on his shoulder or around his waist.
Wherever he wants to put it.
I mean, he's a pretty good sized fella, so I don't know that it's going to fit.
That's true.
So
and not unfit.
No.
As a big guy, he's just a solid.
He's just big.
Yeah,
he's just a big dude that I don't think you would want to mess with.
No, I would agree. How are you going to rate this one?
I mean, it was a well done battle royal.
Yeah,
it was well done. It was hard to just pay attention to one person, but what I liked about the battle royal was that it was nonstop action.
Yeah, from the beginning to the end.
From the beginning to the end, even with the super fan in there, there wasn't a guy or a couple guys just off to the side hanging out.
No,
because they didn't know what to do. Everybody was active. Everybody was involved. And then at the end, Salvation, I said this on our show the other day, tosses Jeff Gordon out of this ring like he's a paper airplane to get the win. So I was very impressed. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4.
Okay. I'm not quite there, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be the second 3.5-star match of the night. I think that there were still a few things they could have done a little better.
Sure.
No fault of anybody in particular. It was just the action, the way it transpired. I think they could have organized it a little better, but not at the fault of any of the performers. It was making the best they could with the circumstances they had, because in that ring you had performers of various levels of talent. So you had newcomers, and then you had guys that have been doing this for a while.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that plays into it as well. And again, no fault of any of their own. It was just, it was a good match. Great second match of the evening. Well done, CPW, for putting it together. So right following this match, we saw the arrival, the some would say controversial arrival
That's fair.
to CPW of Ace Dalton and his best friend. For weeks, we saw videos on social media that talked about whoever Ace Dalton was bringing. And we knew he was bringing somebody with him, but would never really gave away who he was bringing. He shows up Saturday night at
I like
CPW.
his outfit, by the way.
Yeah, it was legit.
I haven't seen Zubaz pants since maybe 88, 89. but just
Well, that's probably when Rip Sawyer was at his prime too. So that was his best friend, Rip Sawyer.
yeah.
That's who he brought in with him. Who a lot of folks would probably know is what I would consider to be another indie wrestling legend in the area.
Absolutely.
Been around a long time. He's been in the business. He looked great.
He did. I mean, he came out. He was looking fit,
Yeah.
looking trim, and looking like he could go at any minute.
Yeah.
With anybody on that roster.
Yeah, it was not what I was expecting to see, honestly. I was
No.
expecting to see, I'm not sure how old he is. I know he's not ancient, but he's not a toddler either. So
Right.
he looked better than what I was anticipating. I don't really know what I thought I was going to get, but it was better than what I thought.
I'm 100% with you. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what we were going to get. Anytime we get to hear of a legend coming back, whether it be an indie legend, whether it be a WWE Hall of Famer that we haven't seen in a long time, that we know is a little long in the tooth, you don't know what you're going to get.
No, you don't. But Ace Dalton has a way with a microphone. He's got a way to interact with the crowd. He's got a way to present his information, albeit controversial at times. But he has a way to do it, and he does it well. So I think this is going to be interesting to see where this goes long term between Ace Dalton and Rip Sawyer.
Well, yeah, because if you remember what he announced to everybody who was listening, everybody who was in attendance, is they're there to do whatever it is that they want to do.
Yeah, that was exactly what he said.
He didn't really get into what that is exactly.
No.
We don't know what their plans are.
He didn't talk about any goals or anything.
We don't know if they have targets. We don't know if there's somebody they're aiming for. We have no idea. All we know is that they're going to do whatever they want to do, and it doesn't really look like there's much that can be done about it.
I'd like to see who's going to stand in their way.
Absolutely.
So, the next match that we saw in the evening was the return of Porkchop Johnson, who we have not seen since the loss of his CPW Heavyweight Championship to one half of the Munchkin Guild in John Washington. So, with his return, he was taking on a newcomer, the debut of Jeremy Rhodes. I just want to go ahead and right off the bat say that I think this kid's got promise. It had been over 3 years since he had been in the ring, but it was his debut with CPW, and he looked good.
He did.
You could tell he was a rookie, but he looked good.
Yeah.
There was a swanton that he did. He missed, but the art of it was done well. He sold the impact well, and I think they put him in there with a good person to be his debut match.
I think so. Again, it was your typical Porkchop Johnson match. It was hard hitting, not the most high flying, with the exception of the swanton that we talked about. That was done extremely well. It was just kind of smack you in the mouth, a few headbutts, bark at the crowd a little bit.
Well, it's not a pork chop match without a bark.
Right, you gotta
from
bark,
the atomic dog.
Got to bark at the kids a little bit.
That's right.
But again, to me, this was a great. We don't get to see it much. Face on face, so essentially it was a face-to-face matchup.
Yeah.
That the crowd could get behind both wrestlers at one time. So at the end of the day, I felt like they were both winners. Again, Jeremy Rhodes hadn't been in the ring in a very long time, but to come out and have a performance like he had, he's a winner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like I said, Pork Chop Johnson being a huge fan favorite, getting the win also went over extremely well. So.
Yeah, and towards the end of this match, right as it was wrapping up, we saw Ace Dalton and Rip Sawyer come back out with chairs in hand and kind of park themselves at ringside for the last couple of minutes of the match. And in my opinion, made it clear that at least at that point, their first target is Pork Chop Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, there was no interaction.
No?
I don't even think there was really it might have been minimal trash talk between the two while they're sitting there, and then they just kind of bailed out.
Yeah.
Took their chairs, went to the back. But what followed that was a great show of sportsmanship.
Absolutely.
Between Pork Chop Johnson and Jeremy Rhodes, with Pork Chop Johnson raising Jeremy Rhodes.
Yeah, stepped out of the ring, walked over to Jeremy Rhodes, and raised his hand. Yeah.
And you know what? It was a great crowd reaction to that particular moment, too. So
yeah. All right. So, for me, I'm going to go ahead and give that match. I'm going to stick, as much as I hate giving, matches the same ratings, I'm going to go ahead and give another 3.5 stars to Pork Chop Johnson and Jeremy Rhodes.
I'm going to match it again. I really can't find a whole lot of fault in the match. Like I said, 3.5 is where I'm going to go with it, too.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and take it and talk about the next one?
Absolutely, man, because you know how I like smash mouth matches.
Yes.
I love a good old-fashioned fight. So what we got in that next match between Gordon Braswell and Triple Fierce Kevin Mears was exactly that.
Yeah.
It was just pull your fist back, punch somebody in the face, slam them around. It's not going to be a pretty match. Don't expect it, and you'll be impressed.
Yeah, those two guys, this was Triple Fierce Kevin Mears' first match. Mm-hmm. Another debut on the same card. Yes. This show was filled with debuts for CPW. But another guy that performed really, really well for his first match. Yeah. He looked good. His form looked good. Again, when somebody's in there for the first time, you think that the nerves hit him a little bit. The anxiety's probably there. So there's always those few missteps. Mm-hmm. But we've learned that that's to be expected when you've got somebody that's brand new. So that's not a discredit to him. It's one of those things that it's just kind of, it is what it is.
Right.
But I agree with you. He's another smash mouth guy. We've said that about Braswell before. Mm-hmm. So we saw that again with Kevin Mears. He has reached out to us, wants to come on to the show and talk with us. So
awesome.
we'll be adding to the list, folks, that you saw us drop just a few days ago on the Facebook page where we went through all the folks that are going to be interviewing here with us. But Kevin Mears and Braswell was a pairing by CPW of two guys that are just roughnecks. And it worked.
That's fair.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah.
It absolutely worked. Nothing huge or spectacular, but it worked.
Right.
So other than just it being a good old-fashioned, bone-crunching fight, how would you rate those guys on that performance?
Well, the one thing we haven't mentioned yet is this match was actually for the CPW Mid-Atlantic Championship.
Yes, it was.
So, for me, everything that we've talked about with their performances face-to-face right here, smash mouth, it gave me everything I wanted to see in that particular match. I'm going to raise it up to a 4.
Okay. I'm not there. I'm at 3.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. I think that the potential for Braswell has not peaked yet. And I don't think the potential for Kevin Mears is anywhere near peaking. So I don't want to think of it as they were at their best. I think they're about halfway to what they could be.
Right. No, I don't think either performer was at their best. But for me, like I said,
sure.
I like to see...
We have two different things we take away from it. Sure.
Sure. If I get the opportunity to see two guys just go at it.
Yeah.
That's what they gave me that night. And I liked it.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. So moving on to the next match. This was a match that we weren't anticipating, but we got it. And it was, again, newcomers. So
Yeah.
we had the Capital Vices versus Def Jam Vendetta. This match was a decent tag team match to put towards the end of your card.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a recovery match, so to speak, from the Smash Mouth bout that we saw before.
Oh, absolutely. It was a shift in gears. For
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but what I saw out of these two teams was so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
Those were big guys moving at fast speeds.
Yeah.
They looked good. Their moves were good. Even the aerial moves were good. Everything about that match shows me that we're just seeing the start for those two tag teams.
Sure. I mean, it was powerful. It was graceful. Again, big guys doing big man moves, but at the same time, they were going to pull off some things that you didn't think they could do.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
That's what leads you to those moments where it's like, God, this is what wrestling is about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is
absolutely
is buying into the unbelievable, to believing what you didn't think was possible.
Well, and something else that both of these teams did really well before they ever got in the ring was engage on the way to the ring.
Oh yeah, both of them were yapping off at the crowd as they walked towards the ring, whether it be face or heel, respectively.
Sure, I can't remember which one it was, but on the way home, I had to hear from my son that somebody knocked his hat off his head. You and I knowing him, he probably deserved it. He
That's
probably
very
said
true.
something and earned it. But the fact that they're willing to reach out and acknowledge kids ringside, adults ringside, engage and pull everybody into that, I'm sure that he gave them, while they were in the ring, everything that they were looking for with that.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that your son deserved it.
Absolutely.
He probably deserved more than that. They probably were reaching for his face, but they missed and hit the hat. So any time that I can see two teams of big guys get in there and pull off a great match is entertaining. And we've seen that. We've spoken plenty of times before about, scaling things.
Sure.
But we've seen it at every level where you've got tag teams that just make you believe.
Mm-hmm.
This match allowed me to just be mindful that tag team wrestling is still a thing.
Yeah.
It's still possible to be excited by it. And I think these guys delivered on that. I look forward to competitions between them in the future. I look forward to seeing these guys take on other tag teams that we've seen, whether it be Simply Safe-ish or the Hellcats or any other tag team that we've seen, the Geordie Bulldogs, who we didn't get to see in action, Timmy Danger and his Sanctuary. Any of those folks, I think that would be exciting to see how that's going to transition when it's different teams that aren't, matching big guys in the ring with them.
Sure. I agree with you. It does seem throughout the last 10 plus years, even though we've tried to push tag team wrestling to a forefront, I just feel like it's still coming up short. But like you said, when you see guys in there moving the way they were, pulling off the moves they were pulling off, and one word comes to mind, that's continuity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't choppy. It wasn't lackluster in any sort of way. So it does give me hope that tag team wrestling is on the way back.
Yeah.
And it does have a shot of surviving, through the years.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this was every bit of a 3-star match. Again, I don't think they were near their potential, but I think it was a good match, a good solid match.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to go 3 with you because it was a great way to shift gears, recover from, like we said, the match prior to that was just hardcore smash mouth style. Shift gears, get the crowd a little more energized for the higher speed action that was coming. So again, I'll match you at 3.
Okay. So that's going to wrap up that particular match. So you want to go ahead and take it for the main event of the evening?
Absolutely. Our main event was actually for the CPW Heavyweight Championship, which is currently held by Sledge Gibson.
That's true.
And he was defending against the High Flyer, the Ageless Wonder, Ethan Cross.
Who we're going to have the chance to talk to in just a week.
Absolutely, man. That's going to be exciting. can't wait to get him in and do that and see what he has to say.
Absolutely.
But as far as the match goes, it delivered. I felt like those guys each had a point to prove. I felt the tension in the ring. It had a big fight feel. And then when that bell rang, I feel like both guys left it all in there. There's going to come a point, I'm sure we're going to get there here in a minute, where it didn't quite end the way that we thought it might.
Yeah.
But before we get to peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and little people charging the ring to interfere, the match itself was phenomenal, I thought. Again, Sledge Gibson delivered the power. Ethan Cross delivered the high-flying, just aerial display.
Yeah. Sledge Gibson is a guy in my opinion, still a newcomer. He's only been in the business a little less than a year at this point, maybe a little over a year.
I think it's a little over a year now.
So, but still, it's great to see how far he's come and what he's been able to do so far. Yeah. Ethan Cross has things to teach everybody because he's been doing this for 8 years now.
Sure.
So, great guy to see in the ring who can still go, who can still, be a cruiserweight, but compete with the heavyweights.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like he enjoys it. It's almost like he loves being in there with that bigger man.
Yeah.
Just to prove that size doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But to what you were saying about Sledge Gibson, I'll touch on. You can tell with this guy, even though he's young, he's a young stud. He's got a long ways to go. But you can just tell he's earned that title that he's carrying. He
Absolutely.
puts the time in. And if you look at anything he has out on social media, he's preaching diet. He's preaching workouts. Mm-hmm. And when he gets in that ring, you can tell that that's what he's living. He's not just talking it.
No, I think he is who he is.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot to be appreciated there. I think there's a lot to respect there about somebody who puts that time in because he believes in where he wants to go and what he wants to do with it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. Ethan Cross, nothing to be taken away from him. This guy's a stud. To be able to, we mentioned before, the most probably physically fit person that's on CPW's roster.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, his physique at 45 years old is, there's teenagers that he would make envious of the way he looks.
He still moves like he's 20.
Yeah, I don't get it. We've talked about it before. If he could bottle that up and put it on a shelf, he could give up everything else he's doing.
Yeah, we have to talk about the frog splash really fast.
Sure.
That he delivered. I wish that we had some sort of video to post up here so you could see the height he had on this frog splash. It was full extension, full frog.
Yep.
Back to full extension, and he just planted Sledge Gibson with this thing.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to see it.
The landing was great, too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a short shot or an overshot. It was perfect.
It was spot on, yeah.
And we've always talked about how whenever you have some of those moves, it takes two parts, the person who's selling it as well as the person that delivers it.
Sure.
But that spot was well done by them. Now, I'm not going to give this match a rating, and here's why. Because it didn't end the way it should have ended.
Fair.
Towards the end of this night, we saw John Washington, Humphrey J Dupont, the 565th, and KR Superstar come into the ring. It started with the briefcase taking out the ref, and then it just turned downhill from there. And the attack, ensued on Sledge Gibson from those three. Now, Ethan Cross joined in on it once he got back to his feet. But after that, as they were leaving, there was an altercation that occurred at our table on location that was not invited. It was not welcomed. They don't have a spot on our show. And so I just want to take a second and talk about, we had Father Time and the Munchkin Guild come at us as they were leaving and basically, one, accused us of favoring one person over another, and two, retaliating for what we had said about them in the past. So I just want to be clear that we've invited KR Superstar to come in for a face-to-face interview with Sledge Gibson. He is now stating that he doesn't want to come in for an interview. He wants to stay off somewhere else and let Sledge be here in the studio while he calls in on Skype.
I mean, there's a word for that. There's a plain and simple word for that, and it's scared. It's cowardly.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that you want to come at us, KR Tiny Star, you want to come at us, you want to interrupt our on-location broadcast, which was going great. You want to come at us and you want to interrupt, but then when the rubber meets the road, you don't want to come in studio and face the music, face-to-face with Sledge Gibson. Come on, man. What's going on? You know, I actually do have a rating for this match. I do. I'm going to change the number system a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to rate this match about 4 feet 6 inches. I'm matching KR Tiny Star's height.
Got it. I think you're giving him some credit there. You know, it wasn't just KR Superstar that was involved in that. Again, we had Father Time, Humphrey J Dupont, the 930th.
26 something.
And then you had John Washington, who...
Oh, that's right. He was there. I didn't even see him.
Yeah.
Was he the little one jumping up and down over in front of the table?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
That's exactly what was happening. As his head was popping over the side of the table, he was, complaining about us taking Sledge Gibson's back. I don't recall at any point in time in any of our episodes us defending Sledge Gibson.
No.
Any more than we've defended anyone else.
I don't recall being anywhere near the title when it changed hands.
No, we weren't involved in that. Right. So, anyways, our apparent issues with KR Superstar, Humphrey J Dupont, the 1,350th, is not over. But my challenge to you, KR Superstar, is you owe it to us and you owe it to Sledge Gibson to come into this studio and sit down face to face to have the conversation about what's your beef, what's your deal. You interrupted our show and now you don't want to come into the studio and have the interview that you already agreed to. You want to do it via telephone, via Skype, so that you can't be within the reach of Sledge Gibson. So I challenge you to be more of a man than wear your height measures and come into the studio, sit face-to-face with Sledge Gibson, and you can bring the rest of the Munchkin Guild with you and Humphrey J in his mom's leopard coat and sit side by side with Sledge Gibson and have that conversation. That's my challenge to you. Now, overall, for this entire show, and even that segment, for me, if I'm thinking about CPW's Love Hurts in its entirety, this was a 4-star show for CPW. It was done well, from beginning to end. Whether or not, even if I disregard the altercation that occurred at the end of the show, the fans were great. The interaction from the stars was great. The participation, Brent Fleener never takes anything away from an event. He only adds to it. We're going to have the chance to talk to him on this show.
I am so excited to get Brent Fleener in here.
There's going to be so many chances for us to talk about stories between different performers, and he's going to be one of those peaks of just people who's got tons to say.
Oh, yeah. Did you hear that Dusty Rhodes impression he did the other night?
Yeah, it was spot on.
It was spot on.
It was spot on. And he was doing the Hard Times impression, too. And we're going to have to get him to do that when he comes on this show.
Oh, that's a stipulation of him being on this show.
Yeah, sure.
Is that we have to have at least 5 minutes of Dusty Rhodes doing this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Without any question.
All right, Brent, we're going to hold you to that.
That's right. So I gave it 4. Where are you at for the entire show?
Oh, it's guaranteed 4.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lock for me. I've said it at the beginning of the show. I said it in our own location episode. If you didn't watch a match and you watched the fans and you watched the crowd, you knew that it was a great show. You knew that something was going on that if you couldn't see it, you wanted to see it. Again, the entire right side of the building was on their feet the entire time. There were people lined up at the rails, at the fence, on both sides. So, yeah, I mean, it's a hands-down guaranteed 4 for me.
Yeah, I think this was probably the best show that I've been to for CPW, and we've been going now for 6-8 months.
It's been a while. Yeah.
You know, and it just, they did this one well. Great job to the CPW folks. Great job to that entire team. Great job to the roster. And folks, I mean that sincerely, from everybody from KR Superstar to Sledge Gibson to Salvation to everybody that's involved in those productions. It just well done. You know, it was a good show. Sure. It gave everybody a great feel. We even had the opportunity to interact with some of the fans that had questions about our show while we're there. It is our plan, folks, to be at the March 23rd show at the King William Volunteer Fire Department once again for an on-location episode with CPW. That's going to be a long day for us because we're also going to have Fusion Wrestling that night that we're going to be going out to do our first show review with them. So that'll be fun. Long day, but it'll be fun.
We're going to be tired that night, but it's going to be good.
So, you know, a double booking that night. We have the show review that we'll be doing of VCW's show coming up on March 9th. So that as well will be another good show where we'll have the opportunity to talk with some of their folks. So I just want to touch real briefly, folks. This coming or tomorrow morning, rather, you'll see the launch of our very first Through the Curtain interview with Timmy Danger. That's an episode that you don't want to miss. It's an entire episode focused just on who he is as a performer and who he is as a person, where the gimmick comes from. And this is an opportunity for those guys just to pitch a story or make a pitch for lack of a better way to put it, about who they are.
Right.
And what brought them into the business and aspects of it, of their entire career.
Sure.
And then on March 2nd, we will release an interview with Ethan Cross. That's going to give you a little bit of a story about him, where he comes from. And I'm sure that's going to have some interesting facts in it for folks to learn.
I think they're going to learn more about him. I think he's one of the favorite performers in CPW and just about anywhere he goes. But I think there's a lot of things that we're going to uncover and he's going to discuss that fans don't know, that are going to give them a deeper insight to who he is.
Right. And then the immediate weekend following that, we are planning to release an interview with Erica Lee. That will be on Saturday, March 9th. That'll actually come out the morning that we're traveling to the other two shows. Yeah. So, folks, that's going to wrap us up. Great 4-star show from CPW on Saturday night at the King William Volunteer Fire Department in Aylett, Virginia. Congratulations to you guys. Well done. We look forward to all of the future shows that you guys are going to do. We look forward to the partnership that we're building with CPW to continue to expand their brand. We're even going to be looking at doing some live episodes with commentary for CPW, or not for CPW per se, but through our podcast, allowing folks to see the event live. So, folks, it's been great. Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Talking Talent. As usual, I'm Tommy T.
Double K.
Behind the scenes is Smokey Z. We appreciate the time that you take to listen to us, and we will see you the next time the bell tolls.